If you clicked on this video, you're probably wondering what this is. This is a stop block. I built it for my table saw fence. This is the Saw Stop T-Glide fence, and it solves the problem of having to clamp a stop block down like this for when you want to make repeated cuts. I needed to cut some of these small pieces of pine at 1 inch wide, so I set my table saw fence to 1 inch. I locked it down. Then I set my stop block on my miter gauge to sandwich this in between the fence. Once my miter gauge stop block was down, moved my fence over, put this down, brought my fence back over, and locked it down. Then flipped up my miter gauge fence. So now I have exactly 1 inch here, and I'm able to make repeated cuts. I started by creating detailed plans with the latest 3D modeling software. Stick around to see how I made it. I started by cutting out all my pieces. I'll put the cut list on the screen right now. It'll also be down in the description. Now I have my 4 pieces cut. I have 1 piece of 3/4 inch plywood at 1 1/4 inch by 4 inches long. 2 pieces of 3/4 inch plywood, 1 1/4 inch wide by 3 7/16 of an inch long. 1 piece of 1/2 inch plywood, 1 1/4 inch wide by 3 inches long, and they're gonna go together like this. But first, I'm going to cut a chamfer along the bottom edge of one of these pieces. Here I'm just cutting a chamfer along the bottom edge of one of the 3 7/16 of an inch pieces. I'm attaching the sides by clamping the pieces in place. Then I use a center punch to mark where I want my hole. Then I pre-drill my hole, and I fasten it with a GRK trim screw. These screws are number 8 by 1 1/4 inch, and I'm using a 3/32 drill bit. I like using these screws for stuff like this, screwing into plywood. They're small enough that they don't split the wood. I repeat that process on the other side. Now that both sides are secure, I remove the clamp and I remove the screws because I'm going to apply glue to these to make the joint more secure. I like attaching my pieces together with screws before I glue so that once I apply the glue, my screws already have a place to go. Because once you have glue on there, things tend to slip and slide around. But with the screw holes already drilled and the screws already having a home, this makes the pieces go together much easier, and they go back pretty much exactly how they were when I drilled them the first time around. Again, I repeat the process of unscrewing and gluing on the other side. Next, I'm going to attach the bottom piece. Because there's a gap between this, I'm just going to use these 2 painter's sticks to prop this up. Like that. Then I'm going to put some double-sided tape onto here. So it sticks. Now I'm going to drill 2 holes into here and attach this with screws. I use my center punch, then pre-drill my holes, and attach this piece with those same trim screws from earlier. Then I remove those screws and the double-sided tape. Again, I drive my screws in before I apply glue so that my screws have a home and the piece doesn't slide around everywhere when I add glue. Then what I like to do is drill my screws in and line them up with their corresponding holes. Because the screws were just barely peeking out the other side, I drive in 1-inch brad nails. Then I remove the screws. After wiping the glue, I give it a light sanding. This next step is completely unnecessary, but I needed to make a pretty thumbnail to get you to click on this video, so I painted mine. I used Rust-Oleum paprika paint, and I really like the way that it looks. I taped up the sides and finished it with some black spray paint. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like, and if you want to see more just like this, go ahead and subscribe.